Come on, piglets! Piglets! Come on! You're going the wrong way, come on! Farm Tour Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. Here we are starting with the piglets. And I filmed it vertically, so hopefully I was able to get it edited so that it could show up me calling them in here from out there when they're playing over there. So they like to be first thing in the morning, as soon as if I'm not out here feeding. So they're sleeping in that one over there. And then if I don't get up here and beat the sun, then they're wandering around out there playing around where they spend most of the day. And you can see more plastic has been pulled. More of that vapor barrier. But beyond that, everybody's doing good in here. Yeah. We'll talk more about this when we get out to the bigger feeders, but I don't want all Farm Tour Tuesdays to be this way, but it is a very real problem I am facing, right? So now I have 10 of these in here, one being a boar, so that's fine, although we'll have to consider soon where we're gonna put him. Because as these guys get a little bit bigger, right, he can't stay in here because they can breed at 4 months old. And that is a problem. You don't want them to breed at 4 months old. Sometimes it works out fine. Most of the time, it is a very, very big problem. Okay, one, they're all related in here. Actually, they're not all related in here, but I think, no, they're not actually. So there's only one in here that's his sister. I think all of the others, I could be wrong, that spotted one could be, I don't know, this other spotted one is, the one that's really friendly, that's his sister for sure, I know. But the other, I mean, they're from 4 different litters, and at this point I've stopped keeping track of who's with who, so, because it doesn't matter, at this point they're just a herd of feeders, right? There's no point in remembering until processing time comes. That's why, they do still get ear tags, and their ear tags denote who their mom was, is because assuming their ear tags make it to processing, I do like to try to see which mom and dad made which carcass quality, so that is nice. I know that's probably stressful for a lot of you that are like, but they're piglets. Okay, well, we raise food, so it's the realities of this. And if you want nice heritage quality pork, they're not heritage pigs, so we can go into that later, but same emphasis on qualities as that, actually more. I'm not gonna go into all that. We'll make that a whole separate video. How about that, okay? But yeah, so what concerns me, right, is that I'm struggling to sell those others. Even we did post that discount, and we'll talk about it when we get out there with them, but I have sold one of those, okay? And my feed cost is about $25 a day. The whey helps a little bit, but like I've got 30 pigs, okay, and feed prices have skyrocketed, right? Like they're insane. We used to pay like $2.80 a ton for feed. Now we pay right about or just over $500 a ton. Crazy big jump, right? And yeah, we still charge about the same because we can't really sell it very well charging the prices that we do, so our margin just keeps getting smaller and smaller. I wish I could raise prices, but I'm kind of capped out for what I can get people to pay. And if you're watching this and you're like, well, is he charging enough? Go to my website, look at our prices, and you'll see that, like, I think we're charging a decent amount for our product. We're just not managing to sell enough of it. I know that it's not a quality issue. It's not like, people buy it and then they're like, oh god, that sucks, because I do have return customers that absolutely love and rave about it. So it's just that most of them have whole hogs, so their freezers are full. I did have one guy buy another order, so huge thank you to him. This is his second order that he's made to us, and it's been a big order both times, so super appreciated. That does really, really help. But that's it. Like, I've had one order since just after Black Friday. I think I had one order after Black Friday, like shortly after Black Friday, because we had 3 orders that Black Friday weekend, and then I had one sometime right there around the beginning of December-ish. Someone wanted ham for their no, that person wound up not doing it. Someone else bought some kind of pork, a small amount of pork, compared to what, I mean, it probably wasn't small to them because it is still an expensive order, right? But not, these guys are tussling. Not compared to what, you know, the volume that we need to sell. If I'm considering $25 a day in just base expenses, not to fix fences, not to do anything else, not to even buy hay. That's not factoring hay. That is just grain feed at 3.5 pounds per head per day. It horrifies me then to know that, like, if I'd still had the breed of pigs that we used to have, I'd be at like $50 a day and we'd already be long out of business. This is already stressful enough where it's like, if I don't sell more, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Because like feed order time is coming up and that's over $1,000 and I'm kind of at the end of this. So you know what, let's not get too downer. Let's go around and see the rest of them. We're gonna go grab some buckets and start moving on. Good morning, goobers. Good morning, goobers. Come on, we're gonna go feed the pigs. Gonna help? Gonna help? Yeah? Yes. Yeah, Griffin. You're a big baby. You gotta be all over. Well, you got nice and muddy, didn't you? No reason for that. No reason for that. Alrighty. So everyone here, I'm good. Of course, Griffin. Gotta be. Yep, checking everybody else. I didn't even look fully, I just saw the nose. Yes, it's Griffin. He's always got to be right up on you. Everybody here is doing good. Can't quite tell if Red has succeeded or not, and if everyone's bred or not. Still trying to get some weight on Donut here. She's not quite packing on the weight I'd like, but I don't want to drastically. They're already getting a little bit more feed than normal, just a little bit to try to help her, and I'd like Red to put on a little bit of weight too. But I have to be careful because I don't want Ginger and Biscuit. They'll just pack on weight. So I got to be careful the amount extra that I give this group to try to get them to put on some weight. But I haven't seen, that looks kind of like mucus at her back end, so I hope not. You're welcome. Realities of farming, that's the kind of stuff you have to actually look at and look for. So hopefully that wasn't her getting bred. He has just gotten himself super gross. I don't know why. Completely unnecessary. Can still see the haze of green down there. And then everything here, I mean, there's nothing growing, that's for dang sure. Oh, and this is why I don't still do goats. Look at this. All my trees have these stripped spots. That one has several. I gotta go through and trim off. I'm probably gonna trim off most of the dead branches so I can get to the good branches and kind of prune up some of these trees. But back here, they've still got the tufts of grass. There's not much growing in between them, but that's why we feed hay, right? Still, it's really hard to see that, the camera. But there we go. That is their groove. That looks really nice, that haze of green out that way. That spot looks great, and that was the spot I was most worried about too. But it looks like some of the best. We'll see how it comes back in this spring. Let's hop on to everyone else. Oh, and one last thing, I'm filling up their barrel just so let you guys get an update on their barrel. I just pulled it up. Before, what I had done, between those 2 weeks there that they were in here, I had just lifted it back up, stacked the bricks back under it, and thought that'd be good temporarily. I knew it wasn't gonna last forever. And sure enough, them pushing around on it, they pushed the little brick out since it was already caved out. But now, Red and his friends' barrel is set up on the bricks proper and over here, the way it should have been done in the first place. But there we go. Alrighty. We've now done the exact same thing that we did last week. Fed them, hopped through, and came to these guys. So, set my bucket down. They have access to both. I don't know if you can see that gate back there, but it's open. And they have had access this whole time to that back paddock and this paddock. I put it in the text last week because I forgot to say it out loud, but yeah, so you can still see. Dose thinks there's more stuff in the bucket. There's plenty on the ground over there on top of your hay. You see they have grass in here. And that's what most of this is. Most of this ground in this one has, and that one has almost no bare spots. Right in front of the gate, there's a little section. But that is the least touched paddock, mostly just because it doesn't have a shelter. So if there's any inclement weather, I don't rotate it and I pull them back up and into this one. So it always screws up my rotations. I've got to get a shelter back there. And there's no like tree cover either. That cedar tree is actually on the other side of the fence. So this paddock, even when we didn't have a shelter in it, the one over, had that cedar tree up on the pond bank, and it actually makes a great shelter. It leans way over and creates an awesome shelter. We used to just put a bunch of straw bales up there and they were always fine. But so I guess I could theoretically pull the shelter from that one and put it back there. Now I've staked it down, so now I really don't want to do that. But that would be an option to get that used. For now, everybody just has, these guys have access to both, which is also testing that fence repair or the pond fencing repair that we ran the line further out, because these guys have never seemed to mind cold water. That has never been like oh, we're not going to swim because it's cold. And they have yet to go over into their other paddock, which is good because the feeders are here. So I've been terrified that like, he's going to go over there. And I mean, the fence is still reading pretty hot, so I don't have that much to worry about. He'll shock the heck out of himself, but I just don't want them stressing each other out, pacing up and down the fence, getting shocked the whole time. So as of yet, they have yet to swim across, and they've been in that back paddock. It's not like they don't realize the gate's not open. I've watched them grazing out there several times, so they know it. They have access to these two, so it's not as big of a deal. And their water source, in case anyone's curious, is that pond. They have this little pond thingy down here, but they usually use it as a wallow. I mean, I'm sure they drink out of it. Pigs are pigs, but they have an entire pond, if you've seen it in other videos, up there. So they've got tons of fresh water. They're totally fine. If there's ever real bad ice, I go up there and break it. But, you know, it doesn't often get bad enough for me to worry about it. So, alrighty. That's these guys. They're doing good. I forgot to hit Toast because I'd already fed him by the time I remembered that this morning is Tuesday. He's still over there. He's still doing his thing. He's still good. End of February is when we're thinking to resolve that, which will be good because then there'll be nobody on that paddock. So, now we're going to move back over to the feeders and we'll talk about them. So into the feeder pen, you can see that there's a ton of hoof damage up here. We're right next to the gate walking away in case that wasn't apparent. So we still have all our grass clumps and everything. And the grass that's there, it just hoofs. Up here is all hoofs by the gates. They pace around standing next to Payday, letting him know how attractive they are, I guess. And then we've got our low spot that works its way through from those willows through these and snakes off. Okay. And so this is always bad. Like I've tried to think of 1,000 different solutions for this. Maybe one day we'll put in some like clay culverts or metal, but preferably clay, so that less metal I put in my soil, the better. Out on the field. Underneath my willow coppice at the house, I don't care. That's where anytime we burn something with nails or stuff like that or whatever, that goes out there because the dogs, for the most part, leave it alone and it rusts down really, really fast because it's a really damp spot. And I'm not worried about livestock getting in it and rolling in it. So this is always bad. Maybe culverts and gravel over it with one of those leaky weirs right here. And then our hay guy could drive over this because right now I've got, hi guys, are you gonna pee? Okay, we'll look away. I've got, our neighbor called us up, and you can see how bad this is. I'll get to that in a second, I promise. Our neighbor called us, and he's got 6 bales that aren't quite good enough quality to feed to his horses, and he got them for free. So he's just going to give us some 6 bales, and we've got another 6 coming already. We were going to get at the end of this month. We've already paid for them, because I just paid for all 12 all at once, and the delivery fee from our normal hay guy. So we're going to get these other ones first, get them spread out, cover more of this bare spots everywhere. And let the pigs chew on it, of course, and use as bedding. And then once those are gone, then we'll bring in the other 6, or right as they're getting close, because I mean, it is middle to end of January. So like we're working our way out, folks. We've got like 2 months tops of like actually bad weather. We've got a bunch of rainy weather coming up. I'm probably going to put a couple, like with the 4 farrowing yards, put 1 to divide between each of those, so that then those are already pre-strawed. That's another thing. You can see this. This is why rabbits frustrate me, okay? Oh, they knocked this one over. See, it's still attached at the one end. Without stakes or posts, these do not work. All your tree cages use posts. So I'm getting a little distracted here, but I want to show you this. You can see the lit up bottoms on all these. These are rabbits. The rabbits love to come in and chew the bark off these. That's why we had to start putting these orange tubes on all of our trees out in the field, is because the rabbits were doing that and killing off all our expensive trees. These are all just seedling willows, so I don't care. Well, I do care because it's the shade for the pigs that are in here. But unless the rabbits go all the way around on the willows, they grow so rapidly they'll seal back over it, or they'll sucker from the ground and they'll be okay. But I wanted a lot of those to be pollarded, and now a lot of those are just going to coppice until we can establish a stem that isn't eaten down. There's a couple. This one has barely been nibbled on so far, so maybe it'll be okay. Several of the bigger ones in there, I think we're all right. It might just act as a real big thinning. Anywho, back to the pigs. So here you can really see, like, this is hoof damage. The camera is always funky, but these spots, because water floods, like this is literally, you can see how that looks like Dr. Seuss grass. Kind of, it follows a line. That's why I've planted these trees like this, that curve and cut and over, and technically this is the end of that line. This end is low and this area right here is a little higher. Okay, so this is always flooded. So honestly, even in the summer when everything's growing as best we can get, this is like pondweed, and the fescue just grows in these clumps where it can manage to like get up and above the water level, which is why we have all of this planted to these willows. You can kind of see all the sticks. There's over 100 willow pollards put in there. Some of them made it, not all of them. That drought was real fun, because even though when it is flooded, and it holds water longer into the year, it was really dry this year. So, and new cuttings. They didn't have an established root base like a lot of the others do. But suffice that all to say, most of this is hoof damage. But there is some that is their snouts. Like this is their snouts. But you can see how silly this is. Like, this is laughable to me. Like, I don't want it, right? I don't want this damage at all. But this is the best they can do. I mean, my foot barely, like, with how stout the root mass is out here. The area that they had done in the other one, there wasn't a whole lot of, like, good structural roots. This area does. And so, like, they, with their flimsy little snouts, are not successful. They get, like, honestly, I really could do as much damage with my boot out here as they've done. But that to say, I figured out why they're doing it. So I thought at first it was mineral, because we don't do stereotypical mineral like most IPP breeders do, which would be 100 pounds of mineral per 1,000 pounds of feed, so 10%, to get them up to, because, you know, if you're cutting your standard feed back, right? You're going from 7 to 8 pounds of grain per head per day to 3.5 pounds, right? So you've cut their feed in half, which means their formulated feed, which means you've cut their formulated mineral amount in half also. So we're just trying to bump back up the mineral, because they can get a lot of the carbohydrates and proteins and stuff they need from the forage and hay that they're making up. But most soils in North America that we use as ag land for growing these crops and for growing our hays are mineral deficient, because I mean, just think about the way the agricultural practices are done here, right? So we're tilling up. Typically, deep-rooted plants would pull minerals back up, lay them on the surface. They would leach through the soil. Those deep-rooted plants would pull them back up, deposit, pull them back up, deposit, and keep them on the surface or within that top range where the plants can access them, okay? So that then animals have access to that. But, oh, she's going to get a butt scratch. It's a real slow butt scratch. But if we only plant shallow-rooted plants like wheat and corn, and then every year we till off that top layer and a bunch of it erodes, we can never pull back up that mineral. So that mineral just keeps seeping down, and nothing is pulling it back up. So we have to mine minerals and then reapply them, either to livestock or feed. So because of our practices of the tall grass grazing, right, that you've seen in our summer videos, like, we are letting those deep-rooted grasses go down, pull up that mineral, and then the pigs smash it all down on the surface, eat what they can and smash the rest down. So we are continually pulling up minerals. So we used to have mineral deficiencies when we started the farm. And then because of this practice and because of giving mineral to everybody, so we were adding to that mineral, you know, bringing back up our mineral content from depletion to then a stable level, and then maintaining it through that practice of laying over the tall grass and continuing to work like that. We'd stopped having to give it. Like, I go through, for all the pigs that we do, which right now there are 30 pigs on farm right now, in case anyone was curious. We weren't having to give more than, I think this year I did 4 bags of mineral, like 4 50-pound bags of mineral, so 200 pounds of mineral for, we go through almost 2 tons a month So a feed, right? So it's like 4,000 pounds. Well, it's not quite. It's like every 30 to 45 days. And it's not an exact 2 tons because they bring me like 3,800 most times. But what that then winds up meaning is that, like, let me do this math here real quick in my head. Say 4,000 a month. That's still not, it's not right. Okay. And I know you're listening to me ramble. I'm sorry. 4,000 times 12, 24, 48,000 pounds of feed. So I should be putting out 4,800 pounds of mineral every year. And I don't. I put out like 200 pounds this year. So crazy less than we should because of our practices. And normally we don't have these rooting problems. Like, you've seen our videos throughout the years, right? Like, if you've watched any of our other videos, you know that rooting is very much an isolated, like, oh, they did it in this one spot, I wonder what was growing here or something. Like, it's never a widespread problem. And in this paddock, it kind of was. Ow, I thought something stung me, but it's winter, so I guess I just had a cramp. Exactly what people want to hear. So you can see some damage, right? Like, there is what we just looked at there. There's some pushover. And I thought that it was a mineral thing. So I was like, okay, well, shoot, I guess I'm short because it is in the winter. You know, the grasses aren't pulling up any mineral because they're not actively growing. So I thought maybe that's what it was. And that had kind of concerned me. And then I started looking out here and looking where they were doing. So I started giving the mineral, okay? And it had kind of slowed down on its own. And now I was like, well, whether that's the mineral or not, I don't know. And then I watched one of them run by me with a stick of charcoal. And I was like, okay. So I sat out here with them and I watched them for a while. They were hunting out, and that's why it's so shallow too. I mean, like, because they could go deeper. I thought, as I said before, like, I'm thinking it's the roots. I think it's actually the charcoal. I think, because they are going in swaths where, like, it's following these paths where I have spread out biochar last year. So I think the pigs are just hunting out the biochar, which is fine. They'll eat it and then they'll poop it back out. So it'll still just remain on the pasture. But it was just funny to me to be like, that's like exactly where I spread biochar. So I think that's what they're after. I think that's why they're turning this over just underneath this. It's still not great. I'm still not happy about it. Grab one of these cheat tubes. But it is much better than the thought that, like, oh, they're mineral deficient. Like, no, they just want some charcoal. Everybody needs some activated charcoal in their life, right? So I thought about dropping that in there. I know you can see my shadow. I did not. Yeah, so they didn't, or they're not as mineral deficient, I think. There must be something in the hay or in their feed, or they just have a hankering for it. Oftentimes animals will eat charcoal if they're, you know, they feel like they've eaten something they want to, you know, do a cleanse on. And that sounds like woo-woo crazy, but, like, you can look at multiple studies on it. Like, it is actually, animals will self-medicate, and charcoal is a great thing to self-medicate for, charcoal and clay, to bind toxins in the body. So either they've eaten something that they didn't really like, and it was making their stomachs upset, or they just really like the taste of charcoal. Because pigs often do. Like, if you hear all these stories of people having a fire out in their field and the pigs immediately going and eating the charcoal. So that could just be it. But that's what they were doing. I was watching them find these little pieces of charcoal and crunch it up and eat it. So pretty interesting. And I guess kind of just a like caveat to, if you spread biochar like we do, they may turn up your sod a little bit. I intended to add some more seed to all the paddocks this spring to fill in. And then, of course, we've got the bales to do that too. But, like, yeah, keep that in mind. That's the big update with the feeder pigs, like what they've done to our field. So what is interesting from the standpoint of farm management practices. And I know I'm already getting close to a long video again, so I'm gonna work quick to wrap this up. So let's just talk numbers real quick. So, because I know that, like, so I don't want to feel like I found a piece of rock I can sit on. I don't want to be, because I've always grown up as, like, you don't complain, right? You deal with it. If things aren't going right, you suck it up and you make it work. But, and that's what I'm going to do to an extent, right? That is, I am going to do that. But I feel like the purpose of this channel, right? The reason why I sit and take the time to do all this, take the time to edit, take the time to upload, take the time to film, is because when we have problems, I know I'm not the only one. Like, that would just statistically be impossible. and I had, actually it was our Hey Guy, posted on Facebook something pretty similar to what I've been kind of struggling and going through. And that really was the kind of pusher of like, I've just been stewing on this for weeks, and thought, well, and I'll wind up probably, I don't want to, but I know that there's a lot of questions that have been asked about this. So I know I need to do a video full out on this, because I know people are getting questions about it because they've heard me grumble a little bit in a couple of the other videos here and whatnot. So I'll talk more in detail on that in a video this week. I promise I'll sit down and I'll record one. I need to get off to pick up materials for my job site and get out there and try to finish that job, because then I'm trying to take a gap for the rest of this week to work on our kitchen, and then we start the next job 1st of February. So that'll give me like a week and a half to just hammer down on the kitchen. But so as far as the actual numbers of moving these guys, I have one that is confirmed sold. Check for deposit is in the mail. You can pay the deposit online, and that is how most people do it. This customer just doesn't use PayPal, and that's fine. Our website will take your credit card through just Wix platform, so you don't have to use PayPal. But I'll do whatever at this point to try to remove some pigs. So like I said earlier, I am spending about $25. It's like $23.75 if I get my weights in my buckets exactly right, which I know I don't. I'm not that great at it. I'm okay, because I know a bucket that's 2 inches shy of the top is roughly 25 pounds. So, but I'm spending about $25 a day in feed to feed these 30 pigs, which is a lot. Like, that adds up insanely fast, right? 1 week is $175 in feed. So if I don't make $175 in sales every week, I can't cover feed costs, right? We just start going down. And that's not just feed costs. We also have the trailer payment. That's about $400 a month. And then there's also, like, this month is our website renewal. So if I have to be able to pay for the website, that's about 300 and something for the year. So, you know, we've got like, and sales tax, because dealing with cash flow and sales tax really, really sucks, but it is what it is. That's also due the end of this month. So all of those things add up, and there's hay costs and repair costs, everything, right? And we run our farm separate from our personal finance. The farm is its own entity, and that is the way it should be. Your farm is a business, okay? So we run it separate, we've done this we've kept it separate for about 2-3 years now. We had been keeping it as its own, or as mixed commingled finances for the first like 7 years of our farm. And that was just a nightmare. It did not work out great, did not create marital bliss. So this has created much better marital bliss. I'd recommend splitting your finances. Farm separate from the personal, even though it makes tough times it will tell you whether or not you're being successful. Okay, like, you can put some infusions of fresh cash. Like, I have had to do that. And that's what this has really gotten to. Like, I'm spending so much on these pigs right now that is not for some reason selling, right? Like, if somebody notices a gaping flaw in my marketing strategy, feel free to let me know. I will look at your comments. Our farmer's market shut down for the season, so no farmer's market. We have online sales that we will deliver to your door within Springfield once a week. You really can't get easier than that, right? Like, you go onto our website, you order the product you want, we'll deliver it. Or we have whole and half. And I know we're not the cheapest, but that's because we have to afford to pay these bills. So on top of that, we'll do these whole and halves. And we've got these whole and halves marked way down, right? Like these, and they're bigger gals, okay? But with these bigger gals, I'm anticipating a 275 to 300 pound hanging weight, at least. And we knocked them down to $4 a pound. Our normal rate is $5.25, so it's 25% off. And we have sold one. We've got a little bit of interest in the others, but it's just people like saying that they may be interested and then so far not getting back to us yet. And it's only been a couple days, but I'm hoping to try to take them to the processing date on January 31st, which is our birthday. Mostly just because that's a convenient date. It's the end of the month that they're, and I need to try to get them sold, right? So like, but that's where they're at. One has moved, all the others are still here. I've got some thoughts on what that is going to entail, like what changes that this whole epiphany is going to reach for our farm. I'm not leaving. And I'll discuss that in the video dedicated to that. I'm not going anywhere, guys. I know I've had several people reach out and ask me if I was getting out of farming because of this or getting out of pigs. I'll do a video this week and I'll explain what all's been going on in my head, okay? I promise. For now, I've got to get to work. You guys have tolerated listening to me ramble for long enough. I hope you got something useful out of this video. If you're watching this years later, because I'm just going to do that like meta think back now, like if you're watching this years later and everything is hunky-dory, then fantastic, glad we made it through, because that is the cool thing about videos, right, is that they last. But thank you to our Patreon supporters, Hunter and Ashley Raymond. I did it. Raymond and Ashley Hunter. I screwed it up, guys. Raymond and Ashley Hunter. And actually, I also just got because I had to do some, I finally got caught up on all my office work. I got into the coffee shop and got everything updated while I was trying to get the last Farm Tour Tuesday uploaded. And in the process of that, I got Patreon updated. So now Patreon is a $10 and a $50 tier, okay? So the $10 tier, we'll meet together, which Raymond and Ashley, we need to connect for, I'm gonna send you a message, we need to connect for this month. Because now that's starting this month. So that is a once a month video Zoom get together, right? So like we'll all try to coordinate a time that works for most of us, get together, hop on, and just chat about farming and life, and like, because this is a lifestyle. It is a business and it is a lifestyle, and that makes it complicated. So I want to try to build a kind of a community around that where we can talk and help each other out. You also get the videos of the realities of farming. So when things go not so fantastic around here, or just farrowing, like anytime that something might be rough. I've also got my castration video up there. I am being explored. So that is all on there. So you can find that. And then I think there are a couple other perks, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. The $50 tier is essentially a mentorship, right? I don't know everything, obviously, or I wouldn't be going through a lot of the struggles we have, but we've been doing it for 7 years now on our own, as our own dedicated farm. Green Thicket Farm has existed for 7 years. And then beyond that, we have been working in ag for well over a decade. So like we've got a little bit of experience. So like we can help you through some of the stuff that we started out having problems with and have figured out over the years. You do learn a lot in over a decade of doing it. So that one's that. We'll meet once a month, one-on-one, to kind of go over whatever problems you're having, just discuss things and just chat and try to figure out what we can do to help get you through any problems that we've already faced. And we have raised pretty well every species of livestock at this point. So that's not, it doesn't just have to be about pigs, right? We have done pretty well everything and learned a lot. We've screwed up a lot. Really, that's what I'm saying this. We've screwed up a lot. I'd like to stop you from screwing up if you can, and just develop a relationship with you and be able to take that time away from my work to do so, to do one-on-one. That's what's really hard, is taking time away from work to do one-on-one, because we have so many other things to be doing. These are already a lot. And with that, you also get to join in on you're also part of the group video chats. You'd have 2 chats per month, whether they're just back to back and we just end one and start the other with you. Does not matter to me. Whatever works for your schedule. And if it can't be Zoom for you and it's just got to be a phone call, that works too. Like we can do whatever we need to do to make that work for folks. I just want to be able to try to help people out. That is why I started this channel. That is why we do what we do. So like I said, I'm not perfect, but I do think that we can help. So yeah, that's what the Patreon is sitting at now. Hopefully that helps bring more people on and gets that enticing. Beyond that, thank you guys so much for watching our videos. I'm thankful because it helps us reach that goal of monetization, right? But I'm actually really, really thankful because it means that you guys are actually finding value in this, right? Because people are making it to the end of these videos, these 30-minute long videos. 2 people commented or sent me comment, one on Facebook and one on YouTube here, that they made it all the way to the end of these videos. So, and I know Todd was one, and I think Sarah Henry was the other. If I've got that wrong, I'm super, super sorry. But like the fact that people are finding these videos that useful is awesome. It gives me motivation to know that I'm doing the right thing. So thank you guys for making it to the end of these. You guys have a great week.